Hi and welcome back. Loading spinal flexion is a little bit of a controversial topic that we're going to try and clear the air about today. It doesn't have to be very controversial when you look at how natural of a movement it is an occurrence of daily active life. Tune in and I'm going to tell you how we can regress this exercise, how it's safe for all people to start. Let's go. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome back to The Full Range. We're talking about loading spinal flexion and rounding of the spine in general. So it's a bit of a controversial topic, especially when we consider lower back pain, and people who already have symptoms are known to be very scared of rounding the back. And it could be a stigma that is placed upon them, or it could be from trauma. I know I was there and I went through this myself, so I'm not trying to belittle anyone, because it took me years to overcome a disc herniation and confront spinal loading and rounding of the spine. So I'm not trying to patronize anyone. My intent is to make it safe for you and hope that you don't have to go through the long recovery process as I did. Okay, so when we look at rounding the spine, it's a very natural occurrence in day-to-day life. Every time you get in and out of bed, you're rounding the spine. Day-to-day movement often inhibits rounding of the spine, and it's a demand that you should be able to do without being scared or having pain. Now, if you're experiencing current localized lumbar spine pain, it's very important that you move with caution and you have an individualized approach to getting out of pain. And if you look at any of my previous videos, I have many exercises that can help address that pain and give you some relief, usually pretty instantly, okay? But once we get past that, we have to strengthen the spine in a compressed range of motion in the segmentation of the spine, which is each vertebrae rounding down, which lengthens all the tissues along the spine, and it's good end range compression and tilting of the pelvis, okay? So we're gonna look at ways that we can do this for everyone. I have clients that are, my oldest client is 76 years old, and she does Jefferson curls. And I'm gonna show you how we can build up to a very easy, regressed way to approach it. And if we have some tightness in some areas that are inhibiting us from doing it and getting the most benefits out of the exercise, then I'm gonna show you. So first off, the loading of spinal flexion, and if we look at the exercise that I showed in the start, the Jefferson curl, that is probably one of the more advanced versions and progressions of the exercise with the Zercher grip. You might not have to ever do that, but I encourage people to have high standards and aim for that if they want to be able to achieve a bulletproof and protected spine. But if we look at the bottom position of a Jefferson curl and spinal flexion, we're kind of bent over like so. Legs straight, back arched, and we have a bit of a pelvic tilt. And I'm feeling all sorts of tension along the calves, the hamstrings, the glutes, and the segmenting of the spine. If we have some tightness, and that's not even a thought of getting into right now, we can very much compartmentalize this by using a slant board, okay? So this is going to address the calf right here behind. And I don't want to make this very complicated. This is just a human wedge. I'm using the tib bars version of the slant board. I can send you a link to get you a discount. They make awesome equipment. They're friends of mine. But it's not too creative. We could use anything to prop our toes up and keep our heel down. Basically, with keeping a straight leg, all I want to do is keep my heel pressed on the board and see how far forward I can get while arriving at tension in the back of the calf. And just holding here. Just getting a stretch in the back of the calf, holding for about a minute, switching sides. Okay, see how far we can get without our hips popping out back here. Staying stacked, joint to joint, ankle, knee, hip, shoulder, all aligned like a tower, okay? And if we wanted to progress to something along the hamstrings, a static stretch you could use, if I bring the foot back a bit and I reach down to the floor, keeping toe down, breathing. I have some good tension going in the back of the hamstring. For the sake of integrity as a coach, I have to do both sides so I am symmetrical. okay? Now, when we get to more spinal compression and loading of the spine, it might be, depending on where you're at in your journey with back pain, it might be difficult to get into this full position of hands to the floor, feet down on the ground, getting all that tension in the hips. So these are where some elevation will help. Again, these are awesome from the tib bar guy. They're 2 inches. I don't know what that is in centimeters, but 8 to 10 centimeters. And you can take one off as you go. So if I do an elephant walk, which is an exercise that's going to get you some repetition in full compression and some good tension in the hamstrings. So my hands are together, and I'm kind of actively pressing my hands into the board. I drop my hips and my knees, and I extend one side. I get some quad activation to get the tension on the antagonist muscle, which we're working the hamstrings, and I bring both hips and knees down again. I switch sides. Okay, this is why I like the T-bar slant board and slant stack, because I can get down after getting in some reps, some experience, training the brain, the nervous system to let myself know I have that range of motion. I can go to 1, eventually getting to the floor. Okay, so that is a good way to start getting the brain, the body used to tension with compression of the spine, getting some tension in the legs, in the posterior chain of the legs, okay? We get to a point where we want to do some loading and spinal segmentation. Spinal segmentation is basically each vertebrae rolling over into flexion one at a time. So we want to use our active range of motion and not go so low, because that's when injury happens when a structure is exposed to a stimulus it can no longer handle. Okay, so we want to work to our intensity and arrive there and stop rather than pushing it. We have to get some repetition so that the brain and the nervous system knows what it can handle. Okay, so my favorite way to start is just with some light to medium dumbbells and starting with the segmentation of our spine top to bottom. Okay, so we start with the head, then the shoulders, the thoracic spine and scapula, lumbar spine, and then our pelvic actually tilts at the bottom. So we do get some end range pelvic tilt, which helps us with our lumbar spine and the security of that region. Okay, so head, shoulders, legs stay straight, spine rounds. My goal is getting ankles beneath wrists, beneath ankles, and then I unroll. Again. Back up. I like spending some time at the bottom so that we can progress and tell the brain it's safe in that area. Moving on to the barbell. The reason why I like the barbell is because the load placement changes and we can load it a bit heavier. Okay, so I have some decent weight on there, and if I go from the ground, you'll see the barbell's placed kind of at the mid thigh there. When I go down here, I'm not going to get that much range of motion, which is fine, but if I step up a little bit more, I can get down a bit lower. And the reason why I personally like and recommend people to aim for the Zercher is because the load placement now changes closer to the center of mass in my body. Meaning it's not going to fly away from me, which sometimes happens when you load a barbell. A lot of people, when they do a Jefferson curl, the barbell will kind of swing away from them. They get off balance. It's totally normal, but it can be avoided. Once we get to a place where our body can handle a little bit more load relative to our body weight, the Zercher grip is really nice because now I have the load close to my center of mass, and if you look at where it is compared to the barbell in my hands, it's higher. So I can go a bit lower. Okay? One more. Okay, so loading spinal flexion, if you look at the animal kingdom, they have very active and they have great integrity in their spines. They're constantly rounding, and they're some of the most reflexive, strongest, mammals in the world. So spinal flexion is not something that should be so controversial. It should just be worked on, progressively at your own level. And there's ways to do it for everyone to begin to create a spine that's durable, resilient, and we kind of overcome the fear. Thanks for tuning in. If you have any issues with lower back pain or any of these exercises, comment below. Please like and subscribe to this channel for more information about being a healthier human, and I'll see you on the next one.